and welcome once again to another episode review for The Wind in the Willows. This is The Storm from Series 2, Episode 5 from Series 2. So let's hit play. There we go, and I'm hitting play right now. Okay, so this episode is quite appropriate, being called The Storm, because it's quite windy outside today. Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the opening titles. I didn't do that last week. So these were illustrated by Beverly Bush, this wonderful title page here, and I interviewed her once, and she said that all the big title pieces were generally done on kind of A3 size paper, on like a watercolour paper. And watercolours are of course used, and then for all the episode title pages that was more of an A4 sheet, and they were all placed in an actual Edwardian photograph album that Mark Hord found in an antiques fair for the film. So that page turned there, that was like basically inserts in the actual book, and then the pages, like I say, were about A4 size. So it just gives you an idea how that was done. Obviously all done on the rostrum camera. So this episode, like I say, from Series 2, it's one that kind of introduces, again, like spring, so that's why I've selected it for this week. We're just into spring, of course, here in 2019. But this is, not the typical kind of weather that we like to see in spring, very stormy weather, of course. So this opening scene here, we can see Badger and what looks like Billy Rabbit, but it's not Billy Rabbit, it's a postal rabbit. Postman Rabbit, whatever you want to call him. He pops up in one or two other episodes, and of course it's Badger's birthday. Now Cosgrove Hall do contradict this actually in a later episode. This, as they're saying, it's the first day of spring, and in a much later episode, Happy Birthday, in Series 5, Badger's birthday is a totally different date, which we'll talk about when we come to it. 2nd of May, I think he says in that one. So, yeah, doesn't really matter though, does it? Attention to detail, not always there. So this was directed by Barry Purvis, who is now, became a renowned stop-motion filmmaker, made his own films, and he started as an animator at Cosgrove Hall on Chorlton and the Wheelies. He saw it on television and thought, I could really contribute to that. He felt he could really make a difference there, and he wrote in, and then sure enough, he was offered some training there, and ended up working there, and ended up being a very key person there. So by the time Series 2 of The Wind in the Willows came along, he was directing. He animated on the film and in the first series, and directed episodes from Series 2 onwards. And after Series 3 kind of left and set up Bare Boards Productions to produce his films. The first one being Next, complete works of Shakespeare, with Aardman, and has gone on since to do loads of lovely films. Now this episode, I do like it. It's not one of my absolute favourites, if I'm honest. I don't really know why. I guess it's not a typical episode in terms of humour. The central character, you could argue, is Badger, because it's his birthday, but it actually is Ratty. Ratty, as we'll see shortly, gets into some bother. And that, what we just saw then, was a quite kind of nice montage going from Toad Hall into Moles, building up towards Badger's birthday, and then finally to Ratty's, and they're all, of course, preparing presents. Kind of nice. We get the odd episode like that. It's a way of introducing all the characters. The love they have for Badger as a friend. They're all obviously very close friends, and it's just a nice way to lead us in. So we've got some nice effects here, nice lighting effects, and we'll see with the wind later. Very nice animation for that. The animators on this were Andrea Lord, who went on to do, I worked with her on the costumes. She did costumes for Post and Pat and lots of other shows. She now runs her own company where she sells her own fabrics and items made from her own self-made fabrics and things, called And Made. Lovely time. And the other animator was Monica McCartney, who I've also worked with, who was great animator. So there we see the wind there. Otter making an appearance, pops up, every now and then. Voiced by Brian Southwood, I believe. So we can see the effect of the wind there. So I've alluded to this before, but when you've got wind flying, you know, you need wires and things in the fabrics, in the costumes. So, and you can see the lighting effects as well of the actual lightning, furniture outside moving, or garden furniture. And here we are at Badger's house. So Badger's set was an interesting one. I've got behind the scenes photo of it in the workshop, and it's like I think it's like a hexagon kind of shape, which came in two halves. So whichever half you animated on, obviously the other half was in storage, and you had access as for animation. So quite a cosy set. Toad being Toad, the thing with Toad is he's not a nasty character, or he doesn't mean to be a nasty character, and he was very much portrayed that way in the original book, and that's how David Jason saw it. But he's just silly, he's just stupid. He doesn't think, you know, he's eating all the chocolates, but he's not. Yeah, there is a selfish streak in him, absolutely, but he's not really knowingly taking them from the others. He's just being Toad. Nice animation there. And this is nice, how Badger's opening the present that Mole's given him, and it's a nice simple present, as Mole said before, and Badger's clearly very happy with it. You know, he's not just putting it on. Maybe there's a bit of that, but now Tempest Fugit, as you can see on there, the words there, Badger often refers to Latin and how it means a lot to him. He studied it, and he always wanted Toad to have studied it, as his father wanted him to. That's one of Badger's famous phrases there, time and tide wait for no man. It's worth collecting those, I think, because there's so many of them dotted throughout the series, and they're all so true. Sayings that apply just as much today as they did back then. So here we have Ratty struggling through the wildwood. The lovely shots here. This is a wonderful panning shot. It gives you an idea of the scale of the set, just because of the way the trees are moving along, or the way the camera's moving. So you get a sense of depth. So that would have been a very, very deep set with those trees. These days it's much more common practice to have more false perspective. When I worked on Shaun the Sheep, we certainly had a lot of miniature houses and trees in the background. Yeah. So we've already seen a rabbit, of course, as I mentioned, so this we assume is Billy Rabbit. No, he's not referred to as Billy. The name Billy is kind of more associated with this rabbit as the series goes on. It's not quite established that much in series 2, but certainly from series 3 onwards. Yeah, it becomes a central character, a lovely character, and voiced by David Jason. So look at that attention to detail there, even with the box waving about in the wind. You know, yes, it's a solid box, but it's got a fair lightness to it, and I think that's a really nice touch there. You haven't just got fabrics flying about; you've got the box sort of shaking there. So here's a nice effect coming up here, special effect with the lightning. Here it comes. There we go. Now I don't quite know how that was done, to be honest. That lightning effect. I'm sure it's fairly straightforward, but yeah, I'll try and find out how that's done. It'd be interesting to look into that. Now, one criticism with this episode and some of the others is, you see how dark Toad is there? How there's so much shadow on him? And I mentioned before the lighting, how it wasn't really thought of as seriously as it is these days. But it's just a shame we just lose some of the detail. You know, it doesn't have to be that dark. I mean, yes, there's a cosy feel to it. It's underground, but you've got bright parts like the wall behind Badger there. You know, that's brightly lit. So why not light the characters? So it's a pity in some ways, but generally we see the detail, don't we? We can see the performances.
Sorry, Arthur, but I just know he'd get here if he could. Perhaps something.
I say, there's no need for
A little bit rude of Mulvin. Otter's talking through his hat.
Very generous of you.
But Mole, cause sometimes, rarely, but sometimes can lose his temper. But I like the way the character, he always apologises straight afterwards. He loses it with Toad in a later episode, and he's very sorry afterwards. But this human nature, isn't it? Or mole nature? It's a human, really, isn't it? So this is Mole showing us the audience his affection for Ratty. He's ignoring the others, and he's off to try and find Ratty in the wildwood. He goes. Always the hardest shots when you haven't got dialogue to work with. Just got to deal with the acting, the body language.
Underground, the only place to be in weather like this.
Now this, coming up now, is interesting. The narrator is talking now. Now, interestingly, last week when we looked at the Ghost of Mole End, the narrator did the same. You know, a little way into the episode, was narrating. So it isn't just, well, it is just a coincidence that we're looking at this one now, but there are very few episodes that do that. So again, a storytelling feel for it, telling us, the audience, confirming sort of Mole's irritations of the others, lack of faith, as he said, and concern for Ratty's welfare. That's what pushes him on, despite it being the wildwood, despite it being scary and windy, Mole being on his own and all that. So it really confirms a solid friendship he has with Ratty. I mean, those endless kind of lightning strikes and the thunder, it just adds to that sense of danger. Another episode with darkness, basically. A lot of, it's not all fun and games, it's all, these characters get into trouble. They get into all sorts of scrapes, and they're there to help each other. Yeah, some of the animation where Ratty just said that, legs a bit painful and a rib or two, just a finger sort of lifts. It's simple, but it's so effective. You know, legs a bit painful and a rib or two. It's those little details that you know, it's I find it quite unique to the series. Actually, it's quite, you know, it's just lots of solid poses just held, and then just one body part, one simple gesture can communicate a lot. But they by this point in series 2, they developed a style with the animation. It was very much like that. I mean, look at Mole here. He's possibly moving a little bit more than he needs to. You know, there's lots of kind of hand moving about, and now it's on his waist. So the hand comes down. That's a typical pose for Mole. The hand. He's got big hands, as moles do. Big paws to be able to dig with. So that's very true to a real mole. So they made a lot of expression out of that, and actually bring their hand up to the chin and resting there. And this is unusual, just to see the Chief Weasel without the henchman. So that's not common, but occasionally happens.
No, he's not. But you can help him. Help him? Because you must.
Now this is interesting how
It's the law amongst us.
the line says there, the line Mole says there, it's the law amongst us for fellow creatures to help. Even though the weasels, they're the villains, aren't they? And the Chief realises that, and that's why he's helping. So there is a law among them to actually help each other out, even though they're effectively against each other. And again, we have more, I guess, more affection for the weasels that way, and more understanding, and we can empathise more. And it's just nice. I mean, there's other episodes like that, like Badger's Remedy, which we look at when we come to it. When Mole was very ill, and the weasels just have to help, they want to help.
No use, Mole. You can't expect much from a weasel, and at least he tried.
Betty, how are we going to do
So they are in trouble now. Mole can't lift the branch, he doesn't know his way back. The Chief ran off, well, fled basically, because the thunder, so they're in trouble. And here, coming back here, we've got the contrast of the coziness of Badgers. Badger and Oss are playing chess, so this is one of Badger's favourite pastimes, besides painting.
You, Toad. I'd be quiet.
Very sorry.
Bit of humour there with Toad.
You can manage without
Checkmate.
eh?
Oh, you're too good for me, Badger.
So this is typical Toad now.
Yes, that was the other way to play it, of course. Well done, Badger.
Trying to cover up the fact that he was being useless all along. Trying to say, oh, that was the other way to play. He just can't let go of the fact that he knows nothing about chess, but obviously he will never admit that.
You've been hammering these chocolates, haven't you?
Toad always believes he knows everything about everything, but when of course he knows nothing about nothing. And that is his character, in a nutshell, really.
Surely he would.
That's it. Come on.
Come on. Where?
Look for Mole. In the wild.
So if we had any concern at all that the others didn't care for Ratty or Mole, of course that's not true, but this absolutely confirms their solid friendship. Badger has no hesitation in going out to look for Mole, and indeed Ratty, as does Otter and of course Toad. So the storm is past now, pretty much, still a bit of lightning, so that's a nice touch, the fact that it's travelled and just a little flash of lightning. I've done lightning before as an animator. I've animated, oh, I can't think what show it was, it probably was Fifi, or at least a ghost train episode we did, with the flashing lights. And it's very simple, it's just turning a light on and off. You just grab those frames and it's as simple as that. Oh, it was Pirates. I remember the Pirates film I did some lightning. And I had free reign with what sort of flash you do. You know, is it one frame, then no frames, then a couple of frames, or is it 2 or 3 frames and then just 1 frame, then 2 or 3 again? You know, because lightning can be quite random, can't it? So it's not just on and off once, it's a bit more than that.
There is someone.
So again, about the lighting, I don't really mind like this because you expect a lot of shadows in the wildwood and there's enough detail there to see the characters. That's nice, little effect there. I don't know if that would have been the puppet actually holding a light or whether it was just a light on a rig moving around. Too dark to see the puppets. Now Mole sheds a tear here, see that? Would you believe what we used for tears at Ardman was KY jelly? That's what we used. It just had the right sort of thickness to it, and it held its, you know, it wasn't like water, it didn't just run down, and that was the best material. I don't know what they used on the Wind and the Willows, whether it was the same material, but that certainly works at Ardman. This is unusual. Another character in Toad's bed. I love the animation of the door. Toad struggling to open the door and then burst through. Really nice. Now it's interesting that Toad, you can see him here bringing up some breakfast for Ratty, and sometimes we wonder if Toad has servants. You know, in the book it alludes to the fact that he might have servants, and he's obviously rich enough. And there are episodes where he's been things have been done for him. Like in the Grand Daniel show, he has his post delivered to him in bed, and yet Toad is bringing the breakfast himself. So we never actually see any servants, so there's no real confirmation of that. But we don't need to, really. I like to think Toad lives on his own, really. He might have a gardener. I think that's certainly mentioned a few times, but pretty much he lives on his own. Now here we go with falling down the stairs, which Toad does many times. We only hear it in this episode. There we go. So that's the storm. Again, I like it. Yeah, as I say, not one of my absolute favourites, but it is a joy. It is a nice episode. There we go. Yeah, Brian Southwood did the voice of Otter there. There's the 2 animators I mentioned. I worked with them both. Brian Cosgrove and Bridget, of course. Model characters there. Interesting to compare these. There's Terry Brown, so designer, as you can see. Yeah, comparing these to the Series 1 credits, there's a few slight changes. Some of them, of course, remain exactly the same, like these credits. These pretty much. And just, yeah, as I was saying about Beverly Bush's lovely illustrations, these ones would have all been the kind of A3 size, not mounted in the book because they're just too big. But I love that final scene there with the plane at the top there. And there we go. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed that. That's The Storm. And join us next week. Or what is the next one? Let's have a look. Word choice. Oh, the Lost River. So yeah, join me next Sunday, and I'll be reviewing The Lost River from Series 4. So thanks very much, and see you soon.